Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Aliens Invaded. I, Chef Become the Strongest Human. Chapter 101. Shui Ruyan wiped away her sweat. These fire feather tribes had almost been dealt with. She handed Zhang Tian the space ring to collect while she washed her hands. After Zhang Tian collected the ingredients, he also opened the lid of the big pot. The soup is thick, bubbling, and shiny, and it is crystal clear when sitting on the fire feather tribe meat. Zhang Tian sprinkled the chopped garlic leaves, waved his hand to dissipate the flames of his blood, and began to take out the pot and put it on the plate. The custom-made extra-large dish is steaming hot and fragrant. Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan sat down face to face, the bowls in their hands already filled with rice. Began to eat. Shui Ruyan put a piece of fire yu clan meat on it, and judging from the feel of it on the chopsticks, it was already very soft. Then, she opened her mouth and took a bite, her eyes gleaming. Compared with normal duck meat, the taste of this fire feather tribe is obviously better. The texture of the meat is softer in comparison, and it feels very easy to bite into it, and it won't feel like your teeth are stuffed. The soup has soaked into the meat, and the familiar fiery feeling of the flame fruit will naturally burst out from it. But compared to the original Flame Bird clan, the freshness and sweetness of the Fire Feather clan's meat will suppress this blazing heat. Unlike the Flame Bird tribe, they enjoy the intense flames sweeping through their mouths. When the Fire Feather tribe eats it, it tastes more like a warm spring water gushing out in their mouths. The salty aroma that comes with it makes the sweetness of the Huoyu clan's meat stand out. The flavor of the beer duck this time is very rich. Shui Ruyan couldn't help but admire and gave a thumbs up to Zhang Tian. Zhang Tian's progress is obvious. Compared with the first time he cooked foreign food, the degree of completion this time was significantly higher. Moreover, maybe Zhang Tian had simply grilled Shui Yunxing into barbecued meat before to replenish his energy. I have an early understanding of the fact that the Fire Feather tribe is a race dominated by fire, but they themselves have a sense of moisture. When Zhang Tian was cooking, he emphasized this aspect even more. A combination of hardness and softness, this is how Shui Ruyan feels about this dish. Of course, Shui Ruyan will not let go of the regular operation and let the soup soak into the rice. A mouthful of rice, a mouthful of meat, competing with the gods. In addition, she could clearly feel that the blood energy contained in the beer duck cooked by the Fire Feather tribe in front of her was obviously much stronger. Moreover, the blood temperature and temperature are also higher, which is also very helpful to oneself. She was even able to have a clear perception of her own tempering progress. This is a feeling that can only be experienced after a huge improvement in a very short period of time. It turns out that eating alien geniuses can lead to such a big improvement. Incredible. Zhang Tian was also immersed in cooking, constantly picking up meat to eat, which made Shui Ruyan across from him feel his appetite increased greatly. Speaking of which, should this dish have a name? Shui Ruyan suddenly remembered something and said to Zhang Tianda. Zhang Tian swallowed what was in his mouth. That's right, after all, it's not a duck. It's inappropriate to call it a beer duck. Why don't we just order beer to burn the Fire Yu clan? Zhang Tian looked at Shui Ruyan and put forward his own idea. Shui Ruyan thought about it for a while, then suddenly smiled and said, I think we can change another word and call it beer-burning fire feather duck. This is good. Zhang Tian nodded and agreed with Shui Ruyan's changes. On the ground, Shui Wushwang wanted to roar at this moment. They are the fire-feathered tribe, not ducks, not fire-feathered ducks. But unfortunately, it only dared to scream in its heart and did not dare to say anything more. After all, in its eyes, the scene just now was no different from purgatory. A member of his own tribe, a former good rival, and a genius in his tribe. It has become a delicacy and is being eaten happily by the two human races in front of me. Especially the taste, the aroma, and Zhang Tian's appearance made him hungry. What a sin. Why do I have such thoughts? Shui Ruyan was full soon. The injuries in her body had fully recovered, and her strength was still improving. As for Zhang Tian, the effect of eating this genius from the Fire Feather tribe was much better than he imagined. Already, he has fully recovered from his injuries, his strength has improved a lot, and he has reached his peak state. Due to the violent battle, the Meridians and Dantian reached a state beyond their limits, and finally became a useless person. Zhang Tian, who recovered from this state, has broken and stood up again, climbing to another level. Jiang Tian felt it carefully. If he was fighting with Shui Luxing, he still needed to activate the superpower state of the physical furnace. But at least the injury will be reduced by half, the recovery time will be greatly shortened, and the progress will be significant. Moreover, this progress has not stopped and is still continuing. Feeling this, Jiang Tian cleaned up all the kitchen utensils on the stove and put the space ring away. At the same time, I took out my spare clothes and put them on outside. After everything was settled, Jiang Tian came to Shui Wushwang. Is your plan to infiltrate to eat human geniuses? You were quacking just now, and you didn't understand. Also, how did you sneak in? Facing Jiang Tian's interrogation, Shui Wushwang remained silent and stared at the former. Just kidding, does this human race think that he can answer such a simple question? Human, don't bother, I won't tell you. Shui Wushwang replied in human language, I can handle the interrogation. Jiang Tian looked at Shui Wushwang for a long while, then took out the bone-cutting knife from the space ring, along with an iron stick. Jiang Tian stretched out his hand and pulled off a large piece of feathers in front of Shui Wushwang. Aha! The light of the knife appeared, and Shui Wushwang was cut off a piece of duck breast. Jiang Tian flicked his fingers, and a ball of bloody flames fell to the ground and burned. He strung the duck meat that he had just sliced off. No, the meat from the young leader of the Fire Feather tribe, Genius, on the signature. There was a sizzling sound as the bloody flames roasted the skin, and the oil began to slip off. Jiang Tian turned his hand, took out the bottle of barbecue spices from the space ring, shook it and sprinkled it on it. I was only half full just now, but there are many things that cannot be rushed. Let's eat meat piece by piece. Whenever you say something, I will stop talking. Jiang Tian said as he smiled and handed the meat skewer to Shui Wushwang. Smell it, does it smell good? Shui Wushwang's whole body was trembling, and it was extremely frightened. Who are you? Me. Jiang Tian looked at Shui Wushwang strangely. Isn't it obvious that I am a chef? No, you are the devil, you are the devil, you are the great terror in this starry sky and all realms. Shui Wushwang couldn't help but roar in horror. Naughty, I'm just an ordinary chef. Jiang Tian said, putting the steaming barbecue on the stick into his mouth and chewing it carefully. There was even a hint of enjoyment on his face. This scene caused Shui Wushwang's psychological defense to collapse completely, and its flat mouth quickly opened. Say, tell me, I will explain everything. What Shui Wushwang explained was very different from what Shui Luxing said during his lifetime. The purpose of the battlefield ahead is to attract attention. The Fire Feather clan themselves also know very well that it is difficult to break through the human race's defense line in a frontal battlefield battle. Nowadays, the small world of Wotang has stabilized, and its expansion as a starry sky road is limited. There aren't many strong helping hands coming from the Red Realm side. The situation can only remain at a stalemate here. That's why they fight on the frontal battlefield to attract the main force of the human race. And they sneaked in secretly, trying to devour the geniuses of the human race to increase their own talents. Only in this way can it be regarded as the right path and give the race a chance to make a comeback. It's a pity that no matter how hard it is, I can't imagine that such a monster would appear among the human race. A mere level 1 realm could actually unleash such terrifying combat power. Unbelievable. Although our Fire Feather clan can also enter the water, if we can't do it for a long time, it will damage our roots. So you humans will not set up defenses against us, the Fire Feather clan, underwater, which greatly reduces the difficulty for us to sneak in. In fact, there are many underground rivers under the Wotang small world. We just use the water avoiding beads to sneak in from this underground river. Shui Wushwang said as he handed over the water avoiding beads and told the process. Jiang Tian looked at the waterproof beads in his hands, and then looked at the water next to him. There is actually an underground river below. No wonder they were able to sneak in smoothly. With the help of water-avoiding beads, the Fire Feathers are not afraid of water. There are many alien races, and they always have some flaws or weaknesses. Although the Fire Feathers can enter the water for a period of time, their foundation will be damaged over time. This is probably the reason why attributes are in conflict with each other. Where is the other side of the underground river? Jiang Tian asked while holding the water-avoiding beads and playing with them in his hands. Behind the army camp, under the well of a small tribe. Now that the war has begun, this small tribe has become a temporary storage place for luggage. Shui Wushwang answered honestly, telling all the information. It is very obedient and honest now, just because the human man in front of it is like a terrifying shadow, hanging over its head. Looking up, darkness is coming. Classmate Zhang, what should we do next? Shui Ruyan looked towards Zhang Tian, waiting for the other party to make a decision. In fact, deep down in her heart, she could vaguely guess what he was going to do. Classmate Zhang, are you planning to cross the river secretly? Shui Ruyan asked. Zhang Tian glanced at Shui Ruyan and shook his head slightly. If you have such an idea, go over and hunt some ingredients with your own hands. But you can't do things so recklessly. We are still just candidates, and we are just two young people. When it's time to rely on those adults and elders, let them help. This is not something you should be embarrassed about. After speaking, he took out his tactical cell phone, looked at it carefully, and found that there was still a signal. Although it is a small world of fire soup, it also has a lot of equipment installed. After all, whether it was the previous life or this parallel world, the genes engraved in their race were like this. Infrastructure maniac. It is normal to do some small infrastructure construction on other people's territory. Who knows when this will become their own territory. However, the signal was very poor, so Zhang Tian's tactical cell phone transferred the message for a long time before sending the message. At the same time, inside the first line of defense base, in the combat conference room, Shui Xiao has already arranged the tactics, and this time the operation will focus on defense. Although Wotang Little World has enough manpower, if we take the initiative, we may not be able to achieve any results. Didi. A message suddenly sounded, and Shui Xiao looked towards the source of the sound, which was from Huang Hui's side. Huang Wei smiled at Shui Xiao, took out his tactical phone and checked it. The source of the content passed above turned out to be Zhang Tian. When he arrived at the small world of Wotang, he told Zhang Tian how to use a tactical mobile phone and how to contact him. If there is an emergency, you should tell him so that he can help. After reading the content on the tactical mobile phone, Huang Wei didn't feel much at first, but the further he read, the more frightened he became. In the end, he couldn't help but widen his eyes, wondering if he had seen it wrong. What's wrong? Shui Xiao asked as she looked at Huang Wei next to her, her expression gradually getting weird. At this time, other people in the combat conference room also looked at Huang Wei. Huang Wei fell into silence, waited for a moment and then said, "My teacher ordered me to pay attention to a student who has some talent. His ambition is to be a chef. He has a unique ability to cook delicious dishes from foreign races without being poisonous. Everyone should have some understanding of this matter." As soon as Huang Wei said this, Wang Jiming, the leader of the first line of defense, nodded slightly. He stroked his beard and said, "I heard from people in your examination team that he has a very unique talent. He only wanted to eat the Fire Feather tribe and try their taste, but the third line of defense wouldn't let them move forward. He had a sudden idea, so he took team leader Shui's niece Shui Rian and tried to sneak past along the third line of defense. As a result, we met a group of geniuses from the Fire Feather clan who used water-avoiding beads to sneak over from the underground river. This genius from the Fire Feather clan wants to treat our college entrance examination students as blood food and devour them while the battle ahead is going on. It's a pity that classmate Shui Ruyan had a trump card to save her life, but instead she killed only one genius from the Fire Feather clan. What a coincidence is that the remaining genius of the Fire Feather clan is Chong Shui Wushwang, a young member of the Fire Feather clan. After interrogating the young leader of the Fire Feather tribe, classmate Zhang Tian was able to determine that this is a straight underground river, and the other side is behind the Fire Feather tribe's army camp. It was originally a small tribe, but now it has become the place where supplies and logistics are provided for the army. This is the content of the intelligence sent back jointly by classmates Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan. After Huang Wei finished speaking, the entire conference room was silent, and you could hear a needle drop. Huh. The first reaction of the leader of the first line of defense was that he couldn't believe it. Can such a thing exist? Their front line and other people's army are still fighting inextricably, and no one can do anything about them. As a result, they were suddenly told that the son of the family leader had been arrested. Forget it, there is still an underground river road that can lead directly to the back of the enemy army. Surrounded by human blood, they are not afraid of water. In the past, it was not possible to sneak in through the water system. That was because the Fire Frog tribe and Fire Fish tribe were spread all over the water and could tell the news. The water system extends in all directions. Once you sneak in, the other party will soon know. But the situation is different if you take the initiative to sneak into the underground river. It's straight and connected directly to the back. If a group of elites follow the underground river to the back of someone's backside and attack from both front and back, what will be the result? Almost at this moment, the entire combat conference room exploded. This news is so exciting that it can completely influence the situation of this battle. Wrong. After this battle, we can directly end the small world of Wotang. The leader of the first line of defense slammed the conference table in front of him, and his emotions became excited. The Fire Feather clan in the Wotang small world is actually very troublesome. If it is a head-on collision and fight to the end, it won't be a problem to win. But the problem is that the opponent is too slippery and retreats when the situation continues. Moreover, in the small world of Wotang with many water elements, there are many fire frogs and fire fish tribes, who will come to delay the time and allow the Fire Feather tribe to retreat smoothly. In addition, the Fire Feather clan's reproductive ability is also very strong, and there are many strong people in the clan. If they, the human race, want to take over the small world of Wotang, they just have a chance to make the final decision. Now, this opportunity has arrived. It was 2 students who were taking the martial arts college entrance examination who took the initiative to send it to me. Immediately contact the other 2 space-time gate bases in Wotang small world, as well as the friendly forces on the left and right defense lines. Let them immediately dispatch manpower and send out a large army to besiege the Fire Feather clan. The speed of this operation is fast enough. The Chiji side cannot react. Even if they want to come from the Chiji, it will take time. Furthermore, the time and space gate connecting the small world of Wotang to the Red Realm cannot pass through the powerful people above level 5. Even if Chiji comes to help us, our victory is already determined. Shui Xiao nodded and said at the same time, I will also order the Soaring Dragon army stationed at the time and space gate of Shangxi to come over immediately. In response, the commander of the first line of defense said, how about this? Let's continue the frontal attack. Team leader Shui just happens to connect with his Soaring Dragon army and directly use the underground river to sneak into the rear. Set a time and move at the same time to surround and kill this army. By severely injuring the main force of the Fire Feather clan and taking down the opponent's clan leader, the small world of Wotang will be pacified. The arrangements made by the commander of the first line of defense are very good, and everyone agrees with them. Afterwards, everyone gathered together to discuss some operational details through the tactical map. After everything was finalized, Shui Xiao took Huang Wei and 1 member of the examination team and prepared to return. It seems that this time the number 1 in the country must be from our southern province. Suddenly, the leader of the first line of defense, Wang Jiming, suddenly laughed. Next to him, the deputy commander of the first line of defense also nodded. It should be the classmate named Zhang Tian. After all, he is the leader of the intelligence this time. It's such a huge contribution, not to mention the military merit points from the martial arts college entrance examination. If we win the Wotang Little World this time, the merit point reward will be not a small amount. Wang Jiming spoke out. There were also people on the side who raised their hands towards Shui Xiao. Congratulations to team leader Shui too. This girl of yours will achieve very good results this time. Shui Xiao shook her head slightly and cupped her hands. Thank you everyone for your advice, but now we are still busy with business, so let's take a step first. Everyone also looked serious, nodded and said, this is natural, be careful on the road. Shui Xiao nodded and left first, while Huang Wei followed closely. What should we do? The original plan shouldn't be like this. Junior brother should hide his trump card, show off his talents, gain some fame, and make a name for himself as a chef. Then he won the provincial first prize and was admitted to Hongwu University in Star City. He pretended to be admitted before becoming the teacher's disciple. In the process of passing the martial arts college entrance examination, teachers also have their special talents and apply to open new majors. After that, the professional resources of the martial arts university can be mobilized and poured into Jiang Tian alone. Show off a little, but not too much. They promised to control points and keep a low profile, but they ended up making such a big fuss. Ranked first in the country, no more runs. Huang Wei didn't even know how he could lose this battle. In terms of hard power, the human army stationed in the small world of Wotang is overwhelming the Fire Feather clan. Coupled with this martial arts college entrance examination, Shui Xiao alone and the Soaring Dragon army who followed her can defeat the Fire Feather clan. The premise is that the other party doesn't run away and hides deep in the back of the small world of Wotang. After all, this is his hometown, and with the help of the geographical location and the formation of his hometown, the losses in the forceful attack will be too great. But it's not the case this time. It's not about storming the home base, but it can also block the opponent's retreat in advance. When such good conditions were placed in front of them, the outcome was already determined. No fancy tactics or special planning are needed. Double teaming from the front and back, just crush them with hard power. Simple and crude. This time, Wotang Little World is going to be taken down. After capturing the small world of Wotang, cutting off the Starry Sky Road, this small world will become like the world of the Flame Bird clan. It is equivalent to cutting off all the way to the Red Realm. After the human race cleans up, most of the defenders here can be withdrawn and transferred to other places. Oh my god, and the initiator of all this, the real hero, is Jiang Tian. Sure enough, the biggest problem for me as a junior is how to avoid ranking first in the country. Huang Wei could imagine that it was definitely his junior brother who took action at that time, not Shui Ruyan's life-saving trump card. Junior brother, you are so greedy. Huang Wei was in pain. Greedy makes things worse. If I really want to eat the Fire Feather tribe, I can just go to the battlefield and collect a few of them. You must adhere to the dignity of a chef and hunt the ingredients with your own hands. Now it's good, you've made a lot of achievements, right? Even Huang Wei couldn't believe it. He ranked first in the country in the martial arts college entrance examination and was the key contributor to conquering a small world. Under such a halo, Jiang Tian was completely placed in the spotlight. To blind other people's eyes. Just kidding, which martial arts college entrance examination student helped the human race achieve such great results during the martial arts college entrance examination? Later he will follow Shui Xiao back to the human world to support the Soaring Dragon army. Then send a message to the teacher and let him go away from the headache. The information is not quite right. At this time, Shui Xiao, who was silently leading the way, suddenly spoke. Huang Wei heard Shui Xiao's voice next to him and looked at her strangely. What's the problem? Once Xiao Ruyan's life-saving trump card is used, I will be able to sense it and go to rescue her. The intelligence said that she used her trump card to kill the genius of the Fire Feather clan, but I didn't feel anything at all. It shows that her trump card has not been used yet, and it does not match what the intelligence mentioned. When Huang Wei heard Shui Xiao's words, his heart skipped a beat and he laughed. Maybe, is your niece using another trump card? It's been a long time since you've been home. Maybe the two of you Shui family gave your precious granddaughter a new baby. You don't know. Huang Hui's explanation made Shui Xiao agree and nodded secretly. Seeing that he had been fooled, Huang Wei also wiped his sweat. Why, this is a big deal. No matter what, the teacher is holding on to him anyway, giving him a headache. I don't know what the teacher will think when he finds out. Shui Xiao and Huang Wei were already strong in their realms, so they set out very quickly. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the space-time gate base. Passing through the time and space gate, we returned to Shangshi's base. After arriving, Shui Xiao immediately gathered the Soaring Dragon army and sent a message to her parents. Huang Wei next to him also took out his mobile phone, passed the message to the teacher, and explained the possible guesses one by one so that he could understand the situation clearly. Soon, Shui Xiao received news from her father, Shui Danshin. The kid really asked me and your mother to help prepare some trump cards. We are quite happy. Close black lens bracket. As you know, that child is quite strong and usually doesn't ask us for help. This time, we made some more killer moves and hid them in her. Close black lens bracket. After Shui Xiao received the news from her parents, her doubts disappeared a lot. She had doubts about the intelligence and was worried about fraud. Since the parents have confirmed it for themselves, it means there is no problem. Shui Xiao immediately took Hulongwei and returned to the small world of Wotang. When she returned this time, all the soaring dragon army she was responsible for commanding behind her were dispatched. In addition, Hulongwei was also responsible for leading part of the defenders. The battle that will determine the future of the small world of Wotang is about to begin. Naturally, we must gather all our strength to win it completely. After entering the space-time gate base, Shui Xiao and Hulongwei led people towards the coordinates sent by Zhang Tian without saying much on the way. The soaring dragon army and the regular troops stationed at the base followed, but they didn't ask any questions and just followed orders. The overall strength of the Longtang army and the regular army were very fast, and they arrived at the location in a short time. But as they got closer, everyone could see the smoke rising from the kitchen in the distance. Shui Xiao and Hulongwei ordered everyone to stay on guard, and the two of them moved forward. Not long after arriving at the front, I saw someone had already arrived. Wang Liuming, who wanted to be Zhang Tian's protector, was already sitting at the table in front of him, enjoying his meal. Although Wang Liuming wants to be Zhang Tian's protector, he also has his own exam area. After Zhang Tian transmitted the intelligence content, Shui Xiao and Hulongwei had already informed him and came over quickly to avoid any more unexpected situations. Seeing Zhang Tian still busy in front of the stove, Shui Ruyan helping next to him, and Wang Liuming burying his head in eating, the two knew that there was no problem for the time being. "Are you here?" Wang Liuming saw Shui Xiao coming over and couldn't help waving to the two of them, "Come and have a try. Classmate Yang's craftsmanship is simply amazing. I didn't expect that the taste after cooking by this alien race is so delicious." Hulongwei had already eaten his junior brother's food, so he naturally knew how it tasted. He was not polite and ran directly to Zhang Tian to ask for food. Shui Xiao could feel the taste of this dish as she watched Wang Liuming eat with his mouth full of oil and soup still stained on his face. Just this eating sign can already explain a lot of problems. Hulongwei took the bowl and walked to the side, while also winking at Zhang Angel. Zhang Tian understood this and extinguished the flames of his blood, and said to Shui Ruyan, "Classmate Shui, if your aunt wants to eat, help her fill a bowl. There are many more." Shui Ruyan nodded slightly and watched Hulongwei and Zhang Tian walk away. At this time, Shui Xiao also came to Shui Ruyan. Shui Ruyan didn't say anything, she just filled a bowl with the newly made beer roasted fire feather duck in the pot and handed it to her aunt. Shui Xiao frowned and shook her head. "I don't want to eat, business is important right now, I have something to ask you." "Auntie, you can talk while eating." Shui Ruyan continued to pass the bowl over and said with a smile. Shui Xiao shook her head. "You also know, Auntie, that I am not a greedy person." At the same time, in the forest, Hulongwei walked aside with Zhang Tian and waved his hands to shield the surrounding area with blood energy. "What's going on? Are all the messages you sent true?" Hulongwei took out his cigar and dug it into his pocket. Zhang Tian's flicked his finger, and the flames of blood emerged, and lit the cigar. "Of course it's all true. With the help of this underground river, we should be able to severely damage the opponent's army this time, right? Not only is it a serious injury, but the next step is to take down the entire small world of Wotang." Hulongwei puffed out smoke, picked up a piece of meat and took a bite, squinting his eyes with a look of enjoyment. "What about the young patriarch?" Zhang Tian stretched out his hand and said, "It's in your bowl." Hulong's hand trembled and he almost spilled the bowl of meat. "Of course, most of it ended up in my stomach." Zhang Tian said again, "It tastes very good and helps a lot in cultivation." The corners of Huang Hui's mouth twitched slightly, and he actually felt it too. Compared with eating the meat of the Red Pig clan, the blood contained in this mouthful of meat is pure, and it is even helpful to oneself. "Why did you cook the young patriarch? Wouldn't it be more useful to keep him?" Hulongwei didn't understand. Zhang Tian shook his head. "No, the teacher told me to hide it as much as possible. It knows too much and will be exposed. It saw you attack with all your strength." Zhang Tian said this, and Hulongwei probably knew. "No, these Fire Feather clan geniuses, didn't your message say that level 2 requires you to explode with all your strength? There is also a 4th level Fire Feather clan elder who was killed by me." Zhang Tian explained to Hulongwei, "I'm worried that it would be bad if he told him." Huang Wei. Huang Wei, who fell into silence, put the cigar in his mouth and took a deep breath silently, his eyes a little melancholy. He slowly exhaled the smoke and confirmed again, a fourth-level elder of the Fire Feather tribe. Zhang Tian nodded. Well, yes. Huang Wei was holding a bowl and a cigar in his mouth, lost in thought. He fell due to a serious injury. When he was the master of the U City Patrol Palace, his strength was around the peak of level 4. Because of Zhang Tian, he finally returned to the 5th level and sprinted towards the 6th level. It is estimated that this can be achieved within the next 2 years. Just like Shui Xiao, she is also at the peak of level 5 strength, and deliberately suppresses herself from breaking through to stabilize her foundation. And Zhang Tian, he is only at the 1st level and has just reached adulthood. Can you kill yourself more than a month ago? It's so perverted, little junior brother. Huang Wei couldn't help but sigh, and silently took a bite of the young patriarch. To be honest, Huang Wei is already looking forward to the future. The speed at which my little junior brother is growing must be terrifying. It won't be long before his strength will definitely exceed his own. As long as he hugs his junior brother's thigh tightly, eats and drinks, and improves his strength quickly, the tide will surely rise, and he can regain the lost years due to injuries. Okay, let's go back. After knowing the inside story, Huang Wei followed Zhang Tian back. After walking back, he saw Shui Xiao already sitting at the table. In front of the table, Shui Xiao also put down her chopsticks and took a deep breath. It smells so good. Auntie, how are you? Beside, Shui Ruyan looked at Shui Xiao with a smile. After feeling it carefully, Shui Xiao looked at Zhang Tian who was walking over. It tastes very good, and it's very unusual. I can clearly feel that after eating this dish, the blood in my body nourishes my whole body. Shui Xiao really found it incredible that just eating one dish could nourish herself. During digestion, the blood that escapes from this dish is pure and refined, and it enters itself without any burden. At her level, relying on external objects to improve one's own cultivation has very high conditions and requirements. Moreover, she suppresses her own realm and polishes her foundation, which requires very high external conditions. She was now in a critical situation, and anything that could make up for her own blood would not be enough if it was even half defect. On the contrary, Zhang Tian's dish was perfect after eating it. It gives the impression that what she needs to polish her foundation now is to eat some food like this. Shui Xiao did not ask what Zhang Tian and Huang Wei had communicated secretly before they left. Everyone has their own little secret, there is no need to get to the bottom of it. Next, follow teacher Wang back. Shui Xiao looked at Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan and warned. Huang Wei nodded beside him. The next battle is not something you can participate in. With this credit, the top 2 in this martial arts college entrance examination are you too. When Huang Wei said this, he was also telling Zhang Tian deliberately. We said we would control points, but was this how we ended up controlling them? Zhang Tian also sighed. He did not expect that things would turn out like this. However, the first one should be Zhang Tian. At this time, Shui Xiao said, because he is the main reporter, the judgment of military merit will be tilted. After saying this, Shui Xiao carefully observed Shui Ruyan. She thought that after knowing the news, this girl and their family would be a little emotional or unwilling. If this was the case, she would have to fight for Shui Ruyan. After all, according to the content of the intelligence, only by using Shui Ruyan's trump card can he kill the genius of the Fire Feather clan, save his life and extract the intelligence. What surprised Shui Xiao was that Shui Ruyan was not unwilling at all. Shui Ruyan is obviously very strong. According to her obsession, if she can win the first place in the country this time, she should be very happy. But why did the child not have the expected reaction after he said that Zhang Tian would most likely win the first place in the country? Moreover, he kept a smile on his face and whispered something to Zhang Tian beside him. On the contrary, when Zhang Tian heard that he was going to be ranked first in the country, his expression immediately dropped, as if he was not very happy. This contrast is too great, right? Watching Wang Liuming take Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan to leave, Shui Xiao suddenly realized something. Shui Xiao quickly asked, wait a minute, where is the young patriarch you caught in the intelligence? Auntie, the young patriarch you asked about has already entered your stomach just now. Shui Ruyan turned around and explained to her aunt with a smile. Shui Xiao. After the other party left, Shui Xiao calmed down and prepared for the next combat operation with Huang Wei. According to what they had agreed upon at the beginning, the next step was to dive along the underground river. After they arrived at the designated location, they immediately captured the small tribe at the rear of the Fire Feather clan army. At the same time, a large army will be dispatched from the first line of defense to attack the main force. Double team front and rear to determine the outcome. All this has nothing to do with Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan. Their mission has been completed. After returning to the third line of defense base, Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan directly exchanged their military merit points for accommodation and had a good rest. Zhang Tian had a headache. He wanted to win the first place in the country this time, steal the limelight and attract unnecessary attention. Distraught, he could only go back to his room, sit cross-legged, practice the blood abyss furnace technique with all his strength, feel the pain of tempering his body, and calm down. Shui Ruyan also gained a lot this time and practiced quietly. The two of them were calm, but some people in the human world were not calm anymore. Star City. In a specially built villa, Zhou Sheng was staying in a cold room, sitting on the edge of the bed and holding a hand. On the bed, a woman with silver hair was sleeping with her eyes closed. Zhou Sheng felt his phone vibrating in his pants. After looking at the woman, he quietly stood up and left the room. After leaving the room, Zhou Shengxi took out his mobile phone, wiped the dew that had condensed on it, and opened it to read the messages. Every time he enters the room, he turns on the Do Not Disturb mode. But if it was Zhang Tian or Huang Wei who sent the message, the situation would be different. They were set to pay special attention and would be shocked. Whether it's Zhang Tian's news or Huang Hui's news, it must be important. Zhou Sheng picked up the phone and found that it was a message from Huang Wei. He clicked on it and read it carefully. He wanted to see what happened and ask Huang Wei to send a message at this time. At first, Zhou Sheng's expression was normal, but as he continued to read the messages, he gradually realized that something was wrong. After Zhou Sheng finished reading, he silently put his phone back in his pocket and stood there for a long time without moving. Okay, that's how you control points, right? Zhou Sheng was once the top combat force on the front line and knew how much contribution Zhang Tianwei would make. Number 1 in the country is gone. No one else can surpass Shui Ruyan, who is second, let alone Zhang Tian. This is not only the first in the country, it's basically. Zhou Sheng felt that his head was too big, and this matter was much more troublesome than he thought. This time it was the reform of the martial arts college entrance examination, which attracted too much attention and heated discussions online. Many people say that this time the martial arts college entrance examination is valuable. After all, it is a practical test, and those who rank higher those who are strong in actual combat. Regarding the top picks in each province, as well as the top 10 rankings in the country, there are already popular choices. At this time, this kid Zhang Tian came out of nowhere and won the first place in the country. He will definitely be stared at by all kinds of eyes. Think about it. A candidate who had just won the first place in the country still made Xingkonglu the key to the control of the human race. Zhou Sheng can imagine that Zhang Tian's name will be on the hot search list. There will even be many martial arts universities vying to capture Zhang Tian. The only thing that made Zhou Sheng thankful was that Zhang Tian was only providing information. It has nothing to do with the terrifying talent he really wants to hide, but Zhou Sheng also believes that the truth is definitely not as simple as the message. The genius young leader of the Fire Feather clan went deep into the human race's defense line to devour the college entrance examination students. How could there be no guards around? Because he knew the accurate data of Zhang Tian's test, Zhou Sheng knew that once Zhang Tian completely broke out, his combat power would be far beyond the surface, and he could directly cross to the third level of combat power. I'll have to ask this bastard when we meet next time. Zhou Sheng rubbed his forehead. He had to prepare in advance. In the small world of Wotang, Zhang Tian was standing next to a steaming river. In his hand, he was holding a fire frog clan, and he was barking wildly. However, compared to the angry cries of other humans, the Fire Frog clan currently being held in Zhang Tian's hands was obviously full of despair in its cries. The pessimistic mood also lingers in its heart. He originally planned to escape, but he was caught by the legendary frog-eating devil. What a tragedy, now its life is at an end. It was at the moment when its idea emerged that Jiang Tian had already swung the bone-cutting knife and chopped off its frog head. Afterwards, Jiang Tian easily tore off the frog skin and washed it in the river in front of him. And his eyes were turned to Shui Ruyan next to him, who was fighting with a standard spear exchanged from the base. Although compared to her original spear, the standard spear she exchanged from the base was much inferior. But she can still unleash terrifying fighting ability in her hands. In front of her, there were 13 fire frogs fighting with her, but she still had the upper hand. And if the fire frog tribe makes a mistake, they will be accurately caught by Shui Ruyan and killed with one shot, leaving no room for resistance. The dead fire frog tribe will be clearly recorded by the military medal worn by Shui Ruyan. Her military merit points will also increase accordingly and become one of her achievements. Today, with the help of Jiang Tian, Shui Ruyan's strength has grown rapidly. As a result, her military merit points increased very quickly, but it was a pity that she couldn't catch up with Jiang Tian. Today is the last day of the martial arts college entrance examination at test point number 1. Poof. After the last fire frog clan member suffered a blow from Shui Ruyan's gun, Jiang Tian came over to handle the ingredients. Next, the ingredients stored in the space ring will become meals every day in the future. The martial arts college entrance examination ends today. It's such an unexpected process. Shui Ruyan looked around. Although they are slightly further away, there are still many candidates taking action and fighting with the fire frogs and firefish tribes. Some candidates even smiled and waved when they saw Jiang Tian and Shui Ruyan when they were passing by. Even more exaggerated people would bow slightly to Jiang Tian. And the reason why they behaved like this was because of the test site number 1 and what happened to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian and Shui Ruyan provided intelligence, allowing the army led by the leader of Wotang Little World to be annihilated. The clan leader was even personally arrested and executed. The original balance of the small world of Wotang was completely broken. On the last day of the martial arts college entrance examination, this small world has reached the final stage. There has been a new batch of reinforcements, constantly entering the small world of Wotang from the 3 time and space gates to carry out cleaning operations. It won't be long before the entire small world of Wotang will completely fall into the hands of the human race. It was during this process that the small world of Wotang fell into chaos. The ones who were most panicked were definitely the fire frogs and fire fishes. They were running around, panicking and not choosing their own path. As a result, aliens under the river and at the bottom of the pool constantly want to surface and escape. So, for the candidates taking the martial arts college entrance examination, it is a perfect situation. The top students who can move freely have a great chance of winning when facing these panicked fire frogs and firefish tribes. What they are afraid of is that they cannot find these aliens and cannot kill them to obtain military merit points. Now that there are aliens escaping everywhere, isn't the military merit point rising all the time? Students who follow the regular army also have a large number of tasks, and their military merit points naturally increase sharply. In addition, in the last 4 days, most of the regular army also headed for the battlefield ahead. Some of the veterans who stayed behind led the students into small teams, and the speed at which military merit points were earned was extremely exaggerated. And what about the students in charge of logistics? Just kidding, the battle ahead has been going on non-stop, and the logistics are already spinning. The veterans who taught these students were too lazy to hide their clumsiness at this time, and directly imparted some of their experiences and tips to each other. Just to quickly get out the standard weapons that need to be refined, the elixirs for supply, and the formations for combat. These things are also meritorious to logistics. The students in charge of logistics are also like tired dogs, but the advantage is that they have a lot of military merit points. Not only did I get exercise, I also learned a lot of knowledge. One person attains the Tao and the chicken and dog ascend to heaven. When everyone knows that such a beautiful situation was brought about by Jiang Tian and Shui Ruyan, how can they not be grateful? Similarly, Jiang Tian and Shui Ruyan's contribution this time was too great. In terms of military merit, their scores were extremely terrifying. In everyone's eyes, the two are no longer competitors in the martial arts college entrance examination. They are clearly adoptive father and adoptive mother. However, Many people are still very curious, how many military merit points can Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan get this time? Others don't know, but the two of them know it very well. As the person who provided the intelligence, Zhang Tian was directly awarded 1 million military merit points. As for Shui Ruyan, 900,000 military merit points were calculated. According to the rules, this can be directly exchanged for 1 million merit. At the same time, Huang Wei also mentioned that this is just a simple exchange, after the real war is over. There will also be additional merit rewards, as well as material rewards. In addition, Zhang Tian will become a martial arts college student. This student status will give him additional rewards. A meritorious service that can be exchanged for 1 million, and being number 1 in the country is just an appetizer. There is a treasure chest behind it, on the way, waiting for Zhang Tian to open it. This is a benefit, but also the trouble it represents is a headache. Being number 1 in the country and being in the spotlight is something you can't escape. It was even impossible for Shui Ruyan to overtake him. There was a gap of 100,000 military merit points. Even if Shui Ruyan poked her spear into smoke, she couldn't surpass him. Now that things have come to this, Zhang Tian can only accept it calmly and take it one step at a time. Anyway, I gained a lot from this actual combat test of the Wotang Small World Martial Arts College entrance examination. After dealing with this group of fire frogs, Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan walked back. Now, they are near the second line of defense. Because of the situation in Wotang Small World, this area is much safer. This time the two planned to go back directly to the space-time gate base, and they could see students fighting on the way. At this moment, if they kill one more alien, even if they get a little more points, they can improve their national ranking a lot. Zhang Tian provided them with such a good opportunity, wouldn't they all risk their lives? Moreover, it was really hard work. If you observe carefully, you can see that many students are covered in blood, trading injuries for kills, just for the final sprint. No matter who they are, they will try their best on their way forward. In comparison, Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan were much more relaxed. Too many points, that's how willful it is. This time the martial arts college entrance examination, the examination at the number 1 examination center in Shaanxi, Nan Province, finally came to an end. In the human world, students came out one after another from the base of the Shaanxi Time and Space Gate. Although they all had injuries and bandages on their bodies, some were even wheeled out in wheelchairs. But everyone had a smile on their face, very happy, and very satisfied with the results of this exam. Outside the Time and Space Gate base, a lot of people have gathered, and there are also patrols patrolling the mansion to take charge of order. There are also regular troops patrolling to avoid any last-minute accidents. School buses and teachers from other cities around Shaanxi are already waiting here. There are no parents, because this place has been placed under martial law, and all candidates leaving must be strictly protected to ensure their safety. As students continued to come out, they met with teachers from their own schools. After conducting headcounts, these schools gradually began to discover that something was wrong. Many schools discovered that there were no dead students. It's not that these teachers want their students to die, it's that the exam time at number 1 exam center in Shaanxi, Nanzhou Province has been postponed due to special circumstances. Although there are some test centers, the situation is very similar to test center number 1, and there is a time delay. But the exams at most test centers have ended. Discussions on the internet have already exploded. The reason is very simple. Too many students have died due to the restructuring of the martial arts college entrance examination. Many people cannot accept it and begin to question whether such restructuring is a waste of human life. However, there are voices of opposition as well as voices of support. After the reform of the martial arts college entrance examination, the intensity has been directly increased, highlighting many dark horses and talents. In fact, some students' results on the battlefield are much better than everyone imagined. Some big shots in the regular armies of the human race directly called on some students to leave after the exam. It is clear that these students are born to be trained on the battlefield. There are pros and cons. But until a piece of news surfaced, both parties were immediately silenced. This time the martial arts college entrance examination, the small world of Wotang at the #1 examination center in Shaanxi City, Nan Province, was directly controlled by the human race because of 2 college entrance examination students. Almost as soon as the news came out, the hot searches were dominated. Another Starry Sky Road was breached, and the reason turned out to be an 18-year-old college entrance examination student. Close black lens bracket. The Wotang small world is captured, another shocking result for the human race. Close black lens bracket. Should luck also be used to measure martial arts college entrance examination results? Close black lens bracket. The candidate who is about to become the #1 in the country is actually just lucky. Close black lens bracket. The tiger father has no dog daughter, but the daughter of Emperor Luzon made great achievements in the first battle. Close black lens bracket. The top searches on the internet are all related to the content of this small world of fire soup. There are also endless discussions, but one thing is also worried that the small world of Wotang will fall into such a war. In the small world of fire and soup during the war, how many candidates will die? Close black lens bracket. This topic has also been on the hot search list. But now, teachers from various schools have discovered after communicating with each other. No one died. No one died. After communicating with the students, the teachers also found out. Although the small world of Wotang was caught in a war, the main battlefield had already advanced deep into the enemy's territory. It has nothing to do with the students behind them who are responsible for cleaning up the fire frog and fire fish tribes. In addition, I don't know why, but those fire frogs and fire fish tribes had no intention of fighting after encountering them. Especially when male and female students team up with each other, when the fire frogs and fire fish see them, they always scream and bang. Especially the combination of a man and a woman, rushing towards the fire frogs and fire fish, is particularly intimidating. As a result, these students have secretly found this routine. After discovering the fire frog clan and the fire fish clan, first select a man and a woman to scare them. When these fire frogs and fire fish tribes were so frightened that they fled in panic, their hidden people all took action. At this time, even if the fire frog and fire fish tribe had inspired fighting spirit before they died, they were already at a disadvantage. Under this kind of battle with certain safety guarantee, after several times, the students all became veterans. Even if the following routine is not very effective, everyone has already gained a lot of practical experience and has become a veteran on the battlefield. The cooperation is more tacit, and these roaming fire frogs and fire fish are no match at all. Even at the end of the exam, no one understood why. But there is also a rumor that Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan should be the ones responsible for this phenomenon. Some people have said that they once encountered Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan who ran into a group of aliens who were fleeing for their lives. Especially among the fire frog tribe, there was actually a timid person who pointed at Zhang Tiano and kept yelling at him, then rolled his eyes and was scared to death. Of course, many people find this statement ridiculous and scoff at it. After hearing the students mention this statement, some teachers from Shaanxi High School kept shaking their heads. How is this possible? It's possible. At this moment, Leng Hao suddenly said, someone has picked up documents from the Fire Frog clan and the Fire Fish clan. There is a portrait of this classmate Zhang Tian above. The third child is a language genius. He also studied it before coming to Wotang Little World. The content is described above. This classmate Zhang Tian is the frog-eating devil in the eyes of the fire frog tribe, and the terrifying devourer in the eyes of the fire fish tribe. Said that this human race will eat the fire frog tribe alive and the fire fish tribe alive. Leng Hao's words made everyone present and the teacher from Shaanxi High School look at the thin boy beside them. The boy also nodded, took out a strange piece of paper from his backpack, and showed it to everyone. On it, there is indeed a portrait of a young human boy, who vaguely resembles Zhang Tian. In addition, there are indeed some words on it. The teacher also took the paper and looked at the portrait on it, feeling a little dazed. If that's the case, does the strange behavior of the foreign race really have something to do with this Zhang Tian? That's right, provide information so that the small world of Wotang is about to become a small world controlled by the human race, another starry sky road to break through. It can also make the Fire Frog clan and Fire Fish clan in the small world run away in fear when they see you. You single-handedly reduced the mortality rate of examinees, ensured your safety, and improved your results. The teacher from Shaanxi High School murmured, suddenly thought of something, and looked towards Leng Hao. Is this Zhang Tian just lucky as mentioned on the internet? Leng Hao was silent for a moment and shook his head gently, not really. Then if you fight him, what are your chances of winning? The teacher asked curiously. Leng Hao looked at the teacher. I'm not worthy of him taking action. What Leng Hao said was surprising. The teacher at Shaanxi High School began to look nervous and stared at Leng Hao in front of him. Don't belittle yourself. The teacher was so nervous and stared at Leng Hao with a worried look on his face because he was afraid that the other person's mentality would collapse. Some students are very talented, but after all, they are young and fail to recover when they encounter some setbacks. As Leng Hao's class teacher, he knew that Leng Hao was a very proud person at heart. Being able to make him say such words made him very worried about whether the other party had been hit in some way. This is not to belittle oneself, but the difference is here. Leng Hao shook his head and looked at the head teacher to speak. The head teacher was a little worried. How could such a proud student become like this? Then what will you do next? What should I do? Leng Hao looked at the teacher strangely. Of course I should apply for college and study hard so that I can step into the battlefield and open up the future for the human race. This was his goal all along, and the teacher knew it, so why did he suddenly ask such a non-nutritious question? Leng Hao, the class teacher, looked at the student carefully and saw that his expression was calm, without any sense of loneliness or frustration. The tone was also very calm, without any feeling of loss or frustration. It doesn't feel like you've been hit. How could you say such a thing? Seeing the teacher looking at him strangely, Leng Hao also reacted. Apparently, as a teacher, he thought that his self-confidence was frustrated because he said those words. Teacher, there is nothing wrong with my mentality. Leng Hao explained to the teacher, I am not belittling myself. The other party is a high mountain, and I am at the bottom. I am not afraid of mountains and will choose to work hard to climb, but that's all. I won't go around the mountain, I will climb up, but the mountain is there and I can't move it. Leng Hao's tone was firm. He was still confident in himself and determined on his own path, believing that his future was limitless. But the gap is there. When he faced the fire frogs, he had to be very alert and fight carefully. And when they met Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan, Leng Hao could never forget that scene. Being able to deal with 5 fire frogs at the same time is already his limit. At that time, Shui Ruyan relied on a standard spear to fight against 6 fire frogs and 3 fire fish at the same time. Zhang Tian stood nearby, holding the throats of 2 fire frogs in his hands, watching silently. After Shui Ruyan stabbed a fire frog to death, he threw one in his hand and joined the battle. That scene was simply imprinted in Leng Hao's mind, and he couldn't get rid of it. The combat power burst out from Shui Ruyan alone was enough to crush him. Not to mention Zhang Tian, who was skimming the formation next to him, especially the fire frog tribe he was holding in his hand, as if they were toys. It was obviously an enemy they wanted to take seriously, but the other party just grabbed it in their hands and dangled it. People who didn't know better thought that Zhang Tian was holding a toy that looked like a fire frog tribe in his hand. Although during the exam, during the break, some students would lament that Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan were very lucky to have made such great contributions. But at that moment, Leng Hao and the classmates around him knew one thing clearly. Good luck. It's definitely not that simple. At least at that moment, Zhang Tian's figure, who was standing there with the Fire Frog clan and his back turned to them, really felt like a high mountain standing there. The top of the mountain is obscured by clouds and fog, making it impossible to see through. When they picked up the portrait and translated its content, they felt that Zhang Tian was unfathomable. Look, there's so much noise over there. Suddenly, someone made a voice, causing many people to look over. Leng Hao and the others also looked sideways and found that a fighter plane was falling from the sky. The technologically advanced fighter jet landed vertically, and a gray-haired figure appeared. Leng Hao clearly saw Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan following the old man onto the fighter plane. Then the fighter plane took off vertically and quickly left with the 2 people. This situation has caused many people to talk about it. Although the security level at their #1 test site is very tight this time, this kind of pickup and drop-off by fighter planes is the first of its kind. If you think about it carefully, it is reasonable for Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan to receive such special treatment after making such great contributions. The fighter plane shuttled through the clouds and mist in the sky, and in a blink of an eye it arrived at the backyard of a villa, and then landed. This is the home of Shui Ruyan's grandpa and grandma. After the fighter plane's cabin door opened, Shui Xin, who came to pick them up in person, took Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan off the fighter plane. Before stepping out of the fighter plane, Zhang Tianzheng looked curiously at the internal structure. After being able to practice, with the blessing of formations, combined with technology, the technological development of the human race has improved with each passing day. Smart fighters like this are indeed new to Zhang Tian. However, when he turned around, he saw a familiar figure standing there. It was his teacher Zhou Shang, and there was a white-haired woman beside him. Zhang Tian could guess at a glance that the other party was Shui Ruyan's grandmother Yi Linfeng. Seeing that Zhang Tian walked down without saying a word when he was in front of him, Zhou Shang shook his head. Master has already shown his cards, don't pretend not to know him. Zhang Tian then greeted his teacher. Teacher, why are you here? You've made such a big fuss, can you just come here? Zhou Shang also looked helpless and shook his head. Okay, let's talk about it after we enter the house. Shui Xin put her arms around Zhang Tian's shoulders. Good boy, I finally see your face. You can put other things aside for now. How about a new dish for the old man to try? Yi Linfeng, who was standing next to him, punched him angrily. What's wrong with you? Your child has just finished the exam and you have someone cook for you. How can you show your face? Where's the face? The child's cooking skills are so good, he must be able to show off his skills. Shui Xin quickly retorted, looking at Zhang Tian, his eyes were almost shining. When he started chatting on the smart fighter, listening to his granddaughter's description, he couldn't stop swallowing his saliva. This is why he couldn't wait to let Zhang Tian cook as soon as he got off the plane. No way, greedy. Zhang Tian smiled happily. It was highly anticipated that his cooking skills could be recognized by others. For him, it is the best reward. After entering the house, Shui Ruyan took Zhang Tian to the kitchen and started to get busy. During this exam, Zhang Tian had already become familiar with it. Zhou Shang, Shui Xin and Yi Linfeng were chatting and waiting in the hall. Sister-in-law, are you still serving as a member of the Xinhuo Bureau? After Zhou Shang sat down, he asked about the purpose of his trip. Yi Linfeng heard Zhou Shang speak and nodded with a smile. It seems that you are here because of Zhang Tian and let him enter the Xinhuo Bureau's files. Yes, Zhou Shang nodded. Yi Linfeng shook his head slightly. No, if he is to be included in the Xinhuo Bureau's files, this child's talent is still a bit lacking. Sister-in-law, he can do it. Zhou Shang spoke seriously and towards Yi Linfeng. Shui Xin, who was standing next to him, said, this child is indeed very talented and his future is limitless, but the Xinhuo Bureau has been reorganized and he is still a little behind. Not bad. Yi Linfeng nodded and looked towards Zhou Shang. You should also know what the Xinhuo Bureau does. Of course I know. Zhou Shang nodded and looked at the two of them. After all, we were all members of the Xinhuo Bureau. The Xinhuo Bureau is a department specially established for the top geniuses of the human race. Those who are able to enter the Xinhuo Bureau are all the top talents of the human race and the mainstay of the human race in the future. Entering the Xinhuo Bureau file will provide different levels of resources and protective power according to different levels. Originally, Zhou Shang didn't want to enter the Xinhuo Bureau files because he thought it would be best to hide Zhang Tian. But this time about the martial arts college entrance examination, Zhou Shang became clearer. Can't hide it. This kid is too dazzling. His strength is too terrifying, and every move he makes often produces terrible results. I'm afraid it's not suitable to hide it, so I have to go another way. Entering the Xinhuo Bureau will directly elevate his status to top-level treatment. In the former Xinhuo Bureau, the files were divided into 5 levels. After this restructuring, it was changed to 3 levels. The 3rd level of heaven, earth and human beings. As an old man, you naturally know how difficult it will be. Yi Linfeng looked at Zhou Shang in front of him and persuaded him. In the past, it would have been no problem for this kid's talent to be in the 5th level, but now it's very difficult for him to be in the 1st level. The current young talents are all in high school, and their health value has reached over 120 points. As for the ground stall, it is 130 points, while the sky stall is 140 points. After Yi Linfeng finished speaking, he looked at Zhou Sheng in front of him. You should also know that Xinwo Bureau spends a lot of resources and trains these geniuses regardless of cost, just to make them become top combat forces. This kid is a top support, but not a top combatant. Yi Linfeng didn't have a problem with Zhang Tian, but in her opinion, people have division of labor. Talents are different. The Xinwo Bureau cultivates the sharp swords of the human race, the sharp knives of the human race. Its function is to pierce the heart of the alien race, take away the life of the alien race, bear the pressure for the human race, and become the backbone of the human race. The geniuses who came out of the Xinwo Bureau did not disappoint. Some of them sacrificed themselves on the battlefield, but some grew into towering trees, shielding the human race from risks. For example, their daughters, and their sons-in-law. You two, before we talk, I hope that the three of us will work together to form a barrier to seal off this area. Zhou Sheng looked seriously and spoke to the two of them. After finishing speaking, Zhou Sheng's blood surged without thinking. Buzz. A trembling voice emerged, and Zhou Sheng's actions shocked Shui Shen and Yi Linfeng. What are you doing? Shui was in disbelief. Zhou Sheng was actually burning his blood. This was a desperate posture. Seeing this, Shui Shen and Yi Linfeng could only ignite their blood energy and cooperate with Zhou Sheng in front of them to cause mischief. Soon, a powerful barrier enveloped the three of them. Almost no one can break through the existence of such a blood barrier. Although the three have retreated to the second line, they still have certain injuries and are unable to do their best. But it was more or less the barrier that the three of them had jointly set up by the former war emperors. It was still difficult for others to break through. In addition, Shui Shen also took out her mobile phone and controlled the villa's intelligence system to activate the formation to cover the area. After doing all this, the two couples looked helplessly at Zhou Sheng in front of them. The two wanted to know what was wrong with the old man in front of them. There are currently 3 people who know about my disciple, Huang Wei, Jia Chen, and your granddaughter Shui Ruyan. Your granddaughter Shui Ruyan only knows a limited amount. The same goes for Jia Chen. Huang Wei knows a little more. Jia Chen signed a confidentiality agreement and swore a blood oath just like Huang Wei. Once the secret is revealed, his blood will explode and he will die. When Zhou Sheng talked about this place, his face was very serious, looking at Shitangsen and Yi Linfeng in front of him. After hearing Zhou Sheng's words, the two looked at each other in shock, each seeing surprise in the other's eyes. Blood oath. Why on earth did they actually make such an oath? Moreover, judging from Zhou Sheng's expression, there might be something about Zhang Tian that they didn't know about. I not only hope that Zhang Tian will be included in the Xinwo Bureau file, but I also hope to establish a new level above your existing file level. Since he is from heaven and earth, I suggest that we set up a God-level file specifically to serve this child. And I implore you two to join me and become this child's guardians. It's best to find some reliable and completely trustworthy former war emperors to become his protectors. And all the guardians have sworn a blood oath that if there is a situation that threatens Zhang Tian's life, they will protect him even if they sacrifice themselves. Zhou Sheng's words completely shocked the two couples, and they looked at Zhou Sheng in front of them in disbelief. After a long while, Shui Shen slowly spoke, Brother Zhou, aren't you crazy? Even the war emperor who has retreated to the second line will not protect this child, right? The last value of us war emperors is to burn our lives to die with the aliens at the critical moment. The intimidation of us people has made many foreigners dare not act rashly. You want a group of us to be guardians for this kid Zhang Tian. Shui couldn't understand that no matter how terrifying Zhang Tian's talent was, it wouldn't be like this, right? Geniuses are very important, so there is a Xinwo Bureau to protect them. But we don't want them, the second-line war emperors, to act as guardians. No genius has this qualification. Every war emperor was not only a genius in the past, but also crushed the rise of so-called geniuses one after another. And it was an existence that was finally tempered by fighting on the battlefield and fighting against the geniuses of foreign races. These second-line war emperors, when they sacrifice themselves for the human race, they will only take action when the survival of the human race is at stake. Yes, Shui Shen and Yi Linfeng really like Zhang Tian. But asking the two of them to be guardians for a newly grown child. Unfortunately, Zhang Tian is not qualified enough. This is not to underestimate Zhang Tian, but to compare the safety of the entire human race. Zhang Tian's personal safety was not worthy of the war emperor on standby making such a choice. Shui Denshin and Yi Linfang shook their heads and prepared to remove the barrier. They thought Zhou Shang was going to say something, but it turned out to be such a ridiculous thing. The two of them also knew about Zhou Shang's wife's problems, and they couldn't help but wonder if this situation caused Zhou Shang's mental problems. Before the awakening assessment, I became this child's teacher. Zhou Shang suddenly spoke at this time. Shui Denshin and Yi Linfang stopped and looked at him. Did you accept Zhang Tian as your apprentice before the awakening assessment? Shui Denshin and Yi Linfang were a little surprised when they looked at Zhou Shang's expression. At this time, Zhou Shang waved to Shui Ruyan in the direction of the kitchen, asking her to come over. Shui Ruyan saw Zhou Shang's movements, said something to Zhang Tian beside her, and walked over. Zhou Shang controlled the barrier and opened a gap to let Shui Ruyan in, and then continued to speak. In order to prevent you from continuing to think that I am talking nonsense, let your granddaughter be a witness. Zhou Shang pointed at Shui Ruyan and spoke to the two of them. Shui Denshin and Yi Linfang frowned and looked at their granddaughter Shui Ruyan, who looked surprised. They suddenly felt that the situation might be different from what they imagined. Zhou Shang spoke again. When I first returned to Yu City, I met Huang Wei, my former student. It was also the first time I interacted with this kid Zhang Tian. At that time, a bad incident occurred in Yu City. The Starry Sky sect cultists who believed in the Red Pig clan rented an abandoned factory to perform a ritual to invite gods. In the name of a training school, these evil criminals recruited many citizens as students, including Zhang Tian, who at that time wanted to be a chef. The Xingkong sect evildoers started killing innocent people and performing rituals to pray to gods. It's a pity, and Zhang Tian was in the last classroom at the time. When Zhou Shang talked about this place, Shuiden couldn't help but ask, is it possible that this child survived and was stimulated to awaken this special chef talent in advance? When Yi Linfang heard what her husband said, she suddenly realized, have you awakened your talent in advance? It's still a special talent. It's indeed unusual, but it won't make you enter the Xinwo Bureau. Early awakening talents are very rare, but it does not mean that the talents are really high enough to have strong combat power. At this time, Shui Ruyan said, Grandpa, Grandma, I think what Grandpa Zhou meant was that it was a pity that if Zhang was not in the last classroom, those innocent citizens will not die. I didn't expect that in the Starry Sky Gate incident in Yu City, classmate Zhang was also involved. Zhou Shang also nodded slightly to express his approval of Shui Ruyan's words. Next to them, Shui Denshin and Yi Linfang were even more confused. What does this matter have to do with Zhang Tian? It's so good, why did it get involved in this aspect again? Zhou Shang also understood the two people's reactions. If they didn't know the situation in advance, no one would understand Zhang Tian's terror. Zhang Tian's talent itself is beyond common sense, and he is simply not like a person from this world. Zhou Shang continued. I was in Yu City at the time, and Huang Wei was the head of the Zunfu Palace. Naturally, I followed him to the site of the abandoned factory. The abandoned factory that was packaged as a training school by the Starry Sky sect evildoers has occupied several evildoers who have awakened their level 1 strength. And that helmsman has level 2 strength, and has completed the god-seeking ceremony and attached a Red Pig clan's arm to his body. Regarding Zhou Shang's words, Shui Denshin and Yi Linfang couldn't help but frown. The two of them hate the Starry Sky sect as much as others. Shitangsen looked contemptuous. The ritual of inviting gods. It's simply disgusting. People don't look like humans or ghosts. It's best if the bastards who don't want to do it die. The foreign races like this kind of people the most, and often like to accept them as tools to disgust our human warriors. Yi Linfang didn't like this either. Shitangsen was also confused at this time. Why did you suddenly mention this matter? Does Zhang Tian have any special behavior? That's right. Since he is here in good condition, he should have saved his life by outsmarting the evil disciples of the Starry Sky sect. Yi Linfang also reacted and spoke. If you think about it this way, this kid still has considerable talent. Being able to save one's life in such a situation is indeed a rare talent. Coupled with his special talent, if the two are added together, he may be qualified to join the Xinhuo Bureau. After all, Zhang Tian before the awakening assessment must have been in the level 0 health cultivation state. What he has to face is a group of level 1 Xingkong sect evil disciples, as well as a level 2 helmsman who has successfully performed the god-seeking ceremony. It's amazing to be able to survive in the face of such an enemy. But when Shui Denshin and Yi Linfeng thought of this, they gradually felt that something was not right. If this is the case, why would his granddaughter Shui Ruyan explain that Zhou Shengzai regretted that the original innocent citizens could survive? Under such circumstances, could Zhang Tian protect these citizens without being in the last classroom? Also, if this is the case, why did Huang Wei and Jia Chen make a blood oath? For some reason, Shui Denshin and Yi Linfeng had an extremely ridiculous idea in their hearts. Shui Denshin exclaimed, "Is it possible that the child Zhang Tian was stimulated and awakened early, fighting and entangled with these Xingkong sect evil disciples, and dragged him to the patrol house to patrol for help?" Yi Linfeng's expression also changed. "Is that so? If so, this child will be able to join the Xinhuo Bureau. I originally thought that Zhang Tian just had a special talent like a chef, but I didn't expect that his combat power was so great." In response, Zhou Sheng smiled and shook his head. Shui Denshin and Yi Linfeng looked at him like this and didn't know why. Finally, Shui Denshin slapped Zhou Sheng angrily. "You guy, why are you laughing?" Zhou Sheng sighed. "I can't blame you. After all, in the past, I wouldn't have dared to think so. But the performance of the two of you has fully proved one point." When Zhou Sheng mentioned this place, he looked at the figure humming in the kitchen and concentrating on cooking. The terrifying talent of this child has exceeded normal people's imagination. Even you two can't guess how terrifying he is. Speaking of this place, Zhou Sheng turned back and looked at Shui Denshin and Yi Linfeng again. "The government patrol will discover these starry sky sects. That's because Zhang Tian, a kid, used the mobile phone of a starry sky sect evildoer to report the crime. And when Huang Wei, I and a group of patrol guards arrived, there were only the corpses of these Xingkong sect evildoers. Jia Chen has found the phone now, and there is a message from Zhang Tian. He was angry that innocent citizens were being killed, and he was even more angry that his tuition fee was his parents' hard-earned money and was deceived by these Xingkong sect evildoers. So, Zhang Tian is a high school student who has just reached adulthood and is still in level 0 health cultivation state. Clear the place with your own hands and remove the 23 level 1 awakening starry sky sect evildoers who were present at the time, as well as the level 2 powerful helmsman who completed the god-seeking ceremony at level 2. Kill them all." He didn't awaken in advance, he just did all this in the level 0 health care stage. Do you know why? You might as well take a guess. What is his health value in level 0 health cultivation realm? Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.